Is it funny? Dude, you almost had it. Get over there. Dude, you're gonna kill it, man. You gotta catch it.
I mean, we're gonna kill it later.
Are you?
Yes, we are. Did you catch it? Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work. What's up, guys? Hey, today I'm coming to you from beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. The weather's turning. Check out some of the beautiful, that's pink flowers and white flowers on the same tree. Pretty unique, absolutely beautiful. But I'm here in Hampton Park, which is kind of over by the Citadel in downtown Charleston. And got a couple questions, one of which about depreciation. So I figured I'd spend a few minutes during this video, talk about depreciation. Let's go. All right, depreciation is one of those hot topics in real estate. And I think one of the things you need to understand is the tax code, which comes over from Europe, right? And feudal lords, since like the beginning of civilization, wealth has been measured in land ownership. And if you have wealth, chances are you probably have some influence or some power, and you can probably use some of that power and some of that influence to influence the tax codes. So what you need to understand is a lot of the tax codes are beneficial towards business owners and towards landowners. One reason is because of that. The other reason is because they create a lot of jobs. They create a lot of revenue. They drive economies, both real estate and business owners. And so because you're employing other people, in order to incentivize you as a business owner to take on that risk, there's a lot of tax benefits as business owners, as landowners, to go out and invest money into potentially risky investments or projects or businesses and start and stimulate economic drivers in order to do that. So that's why there's so many benefits to business owners and to real estate investors. So let's dive into depreciation specifically. Depreciation is what the government allows you to take when you buy a piece of real estate with a building on top of it. First thing you have to understand is you cannot depreciate land. Land always maintains its value. However, the building, the structure, the improvements to that land can be depreciated over time. That means you can say, hey, here's the useful lifespan of what that improvement to the property is, and the government allows you to then write that off over the course of a certain number of years. So let's take a single-family home, for instance. A single-family home can be depreciated over 27 and a half years. So let's say you buy the house for $100,000. You can depreciate that $100,000 minus the land value. So let's call it $90,000. Let's say the house is worth $90,000 and the land is worth $10,000. You can depreciate that $90,000 over the next 27 years. So what is that? About $3,000 per year in depreciation. Let's say it's a rental property. As revenue comes in, you can offset about $3,000 of net operating income on that rental property per year because of the depreciation. And even though apartments, 5 units and bigger, are technically commercial real estate, in the IRS's eyes, it's still residential. So they allow you to depreciate an apartment building over 27 and a half years also. So the difference is when you get into the other real estate asset classes, I'm talking warehouse, self-storage, office, medical, retail, hospitality, things like that, those are depreciated over 39 years. So let's say you bought a commercial property for $100,000 that falls into one of those categories, and you depreciate it over 39 years, you'd really only get about $2,500 per year in depreciation. So the government gives us depreciation to be able to offset the reduced value over time of that property. So depreciation is taking the value of the property and saying it's not gonna last for 40 years. Meaning, let's think about the carpet. The carpet's gonna have to be replaced eventually. You know, the HVAC unit is eventually going to have to be replaced. It's not going to last the lifespan. The roof is going to eventually have to be replaced. There are some elements that could last longer than 40 years, but in the government's eyes, they're saying, hey, this building lasts 40 years, and you can depreciate the value over that amount of time in order to, because you're losing value, but you're still investing in certain assets and all these different things. So it allows you to then depreciate it and offset some of your income by having that depreciation. So this isn't something that you really have to do. This is, you just give it to your CPA, and your CPA will naturally know what to do here, okay? Or at least they should, and if they don't, then you need to find a new CPA. Now the benefit short term is that you can offset your passive income with some of these passive losses. And so you can knock down, let's call it on the single family house example, about $3,000, maybe even a little bit more, about $3,300, $3,500 per year in offsetting your cash flows from that rental property. So it allows you to really be able to take that money that you make from rental income and then reinvest it into new deals or reinvest it into the property if you want to do that. The thing to understand over the long term though is that if you depreciate that by $3,300 a year for the next 10 years, you've reduced your cost basis in that property. Instead of buying it at $100,000 and then selling it at $150,000 and only paying long-term capital gains on $50,000 of profit, of proceeds, now you've depreciated it by about $33,000. So your cost basis is around $67,000. You sell it for $150,000, you're paying long-term capital gains on that full difference, on the whole delta. Now, that might not seem too appealing, right, thinking about in the future, but the benefit is that because of that depreciation, you've been able to not pay taxes earlier on or defer that taxable gain until you sell the property, and again, gives you the cash and the liquidity to then reinvest into new businesses, new ventures, and hopefully new property potentially. So if you're in growth mode and you're looking to keep as much of the cash as possible to then redeploy into more opportunities, depreciation is your friend, right? Because you're deferring that out. So if that sounds interesting, here's how you can really take advantage, especially if you're a full-time real estate professional. You see, depreciation is a passive loss, so you can only offset your passive gains with your depreciation. If you don't have enough passive gains to offset with all the depreciation you have, then that just rolls forward. So let's say you're not a full-time real estate professional and you're a successful doctor, or you have an e-commerce business, or you have another traditional brick and mortar type of a business. You make a lot of money over there and you own some real estate, but majority of your time is spent in your traditional business. Your real estate depreciation can only offset, because it's a passive loss, can only offset your passive income. So it cannot offset your active earned income in your traditional business or in your W-2. That's something to pay attention to, because I'm going to come full circle to this. If you're a real estate professional, they take all of your active and earned income and all of your active and earned losses and all of your passive earned income and all of your passive losses, and they put it all into the same bucket. So if you're a real estate professional, you can really benefit from depreciation. Because let's say you flip houses or you wholesale houses or you actively operate Airbnbs or anything along those lines, you can take the depreciation from those properties and offset your active earned income that you typically wouldn't be able to do if, again, you're a white collar professional or you have a W-2 job or some other type of business where that takes up the majority of your time. So if you're a full-time real estate professional, the way that the IRS designates this is if you spend at least 750 hours per year, which is really 15 hours a week, and it's the majority of where you're spending your time. It doesn't need to be the majority of where you're making your money, but it needs to be the majority of where you're spending your time, your primary business. Well, hey Tim, I make $1 million a year in my flipping business, and my depreciation on my properties, is only $25,000 a year, with natural depreciation over 27 and a half years. I get it. Here's something you can do. You might have heard of accelerated depreciation by doing something called a cost segregation study, a cost seg study. They take all the components of your property and they say, hey, the carpet doesn't last a full 27 and a half years. You're gonna have to replace that every 6 years or every 8 years. I don't know exactly what the number is. They can do the same thing with mechanicals, hot water tanks, with kitchen sinks, appliances, paint on the walls, the trim and the molding, the windows, the roof, the parking lot, all those different things. You can segregate out the costs, line item them all, and say they don't last over 27 years. Instead, they last over 5 years, 8 years, 15 years, 10 years, 3 years. And you can take that and front end load the depreciation. Typically, you can hire a cost segregation company. They'll come in, put a report together, cost a few $1,000s depending on the size of the project and size of the property. And then you can give that to your CPA. So it's a third-party report that they can put together for you. And what I've found with my own properties is I can usually cost seg and depreciate around 20 to 30% of my residential real estate in the first year. Not including year 2, 3, 4, 5. But these cost segregation studies allow me to offset around, let's call it 20 to 25% of the property value. So if I buy a $10 million building, I can offset around $2 million to $2.5 million in year 1 by doing a cost segregation study. And again, depending on the land value, this doesn't always work. You know, if you bought something that's on the ocean, where the land value is majority of the value of the property, and the property is only a fraction of that. So let's say, you know, I live on Isle of Palms in South Carolina, and on the ocean there, the lots sell for $4 to $5 million, okay? And the homes, you know, even if you spent $400 a square foot to build a 5,000 square foot house, that's only another $2 million bucks. So on a $6 million property, $4 million goes to the land, which is not depreciable, and only $2 million really gets depreciated. If you own a property that's more in, you know, rural type of an area, or like a secondary or tertiary type of a market, let's call it, there's more value in the building itself typically than the land itself. So you can get a little bit more depreciation. So you want to talk to your cost segregation expert, talk to your CPA about this. And by the way, let me make a disclaimer real quick. I'm not a CPA, right? I'm giving you insights from my personal background and my consultations with my own CPA. So talk to your own certified public accountant. Make sure that you talk to somebody about this stuff before you do any of it, and get professional advice and professional opinion from either a tax advisor, tax attorney, or a CPA before you do any of this stuff, okay? So on my apartment buildings, I can, because I'm a full-time real estate professional, and majority of my time is spent in real estate, even though I have an education, coaching, and consulting business, I have a book company where I author books, and I have a couple other types of businesses that we have going on right now, and I generate revenue from those. That's not my primary source of income or my primary source of where I spend my time. So because majority of my time spent in real estate, a substantial amount of my time, majority of my time is spent in doing real estate investing, I am a full-time real estate professional. So I can take that depreciation from that property and offset all the income that goes into my active earned income bucket with all this accelerated depreciation that I have. Now, something to pay attention to. When you accelerate depreciation and you kick that can down the road, it gets reclassified. Now it's not long-term capital gains, it's back into your earned income tax bracket in the future. Pay attention to this. So if I sell that building in 5 years, I'm not paying 20% long-term capital gains. I'm paying whatever my earned income tax bracket is when I sell that building in 5, 10, 15 years. So if you're going to accelerate depreciation, typically you want to either hold the building long-term and never sell it, just keep on refinancing, pulling cash back out, on putting new loans on the property, or if you do sell it, you want to typically do a 1031 exchange and roll it into something else, or buy enough other property and cost seg those properties in order to offset some of that earned income that will be reclassified whenever you sell that property. Hope that makes sense. I hope that's not too convoluted for you. All right, so Tim, I'm not a full-time real estate professional. How can I capitalize on this, or what happens if you front-end load all the depreciation because I'm in a deal that I passively invest in with you, Tim? And so I understand that you would want it to be accelerated, but it doesn't help me out as a limited partner, as a passive investor in your project. Great question. Let me answer that. So if you don't utilize any portion of the accelerated depreciation because your passive income isn't substantial enough to offset that, then you don't lose it. It just rolls forward into the next year, the next year, the next year. If you never use it and we sell the property in the future, it just, you get that added to your basis in the future, essentially, if you never utilize it on your own taxes. Here is something that I've seen done with a couple of my buddies who own multi-million-dollar, $100 million, deca-million-dollar type companies that are not real estate companies. So I got one buddy who nets $15 million a year in a media marketing type business. I have another person who does about 12 million a year in a trucking business, good buddy of mine. And so what they've done is their spouses have started their own real estate investing companies. And they will passively invest into different deals, and they will actively flip, and they will actively manage their own rental properties. By doing that, their spouse becomes a full-time real estate professional. And by them being married, filing taxes jointly, all of a sudden that e-commerce, that media business, that trucking business, and all the revenue generated from those businesses on the active earn side can be offset by the spouse's depreciation and accelerated depreciation because he or she is a full-time real estate professional. So now you can bring them together, and even though you're not a full-time real estate professional, because your spouse is, you can offset your active earned income with your spouse's heavy front-end loaded depreciation from their real estate. It is one of the best strategies to offset your taxes, to give you the opportunity to keep more cash in order to reinvest into more businesses, more property, create more jobs, stimulate the economy, and grow your business. All right, so the type of person that should take advantage of this, or in my eyes, has the greatest opportunity to take advantage of this, is somebody like me, right? I'm young, I'm in growth mode, I'm looking to continue building my business. It helps to have more access to capital right now, right? Because I'm actively buying and transacting real estate. So it allows me to continue to grow my portfolio. As I grow my portfolio, I'm gonna offset my earned active income with depreciation, kick that can down the road, and continuously just grow, and continuously stimulate the economy by investing and creating more and more jobs. If you are in growth mode, that makes a lot of sense. If you're looking to pay less in taxes or kick the can down the road a little bit, that makes a lot of sense. This is an opportunity for you to sit down with your CPA, to sit down with your tax advisor and say, hey, from a, what could this possibly look like if I designate my spouse, or if I become a full-time real estate professional, if my spouse starts their own real estate investment company, what does it look like? And how can that help me offset some of my taxable income in what I have going on in my primary business? All right, so hopefully that's helpful for you. If you know other people who are making a lot of money and trying to figure out how do they offset their active earned income, share this video with them. Hopefully it wasn't too convoluted, hopefully it wasn't too complex. I try to take these complex ideas and simplify it so that way everybody can understand. And the reason I do this, guys, is to help spread the word, right? It helps me make more of an impact the more that you share videos like this. So if you would, please share this, pass it along to some other folks that you know that could benefit from this knowledge, from this insight. If you guys, if you guys need access to some CPAs or anything like that, I know some very, very smart CPA firms that I'm happy to just connect you to, firms that I've used in the past or that I've consulted with in the past, and I don't get anything out of it. I'll just connect you guys, have a conversation with them if you need to talk to somebody about this. So pay attention to this stuff, talk about this stuff with your tax advisor. It can save you thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year in offsetting your taxes, because knowledge is power. So put it to work. I appreciate you. I love you. Please like, share, subscribe to the video, and promote it. Put it out to some other folks who you know that would get some value out of it. So appreciate you. Until next time, be your best. So the type of person that in my eyes would take advantage of this would be somebody like me, right? Either being bugs.